The spiral, chapter 4, the people of the mist. Among the tunnels of the valley, distinguished by pink and light brown and grey pillars of stalagmites and stalactites, were the people of the mist. Fossilized bones of antiquated animals were discovered in one cavern. More amazing were giant human-like bones. However, none could say if they were really humans of gigantic stature. There was always an odd bone or two on some, while some had unusual curvatures, suggesting hybrids of part bird, part mammal, and part human. Cave drawings of mythical creatures with seemingly supernatural powers fascinated many and were used by some as evidence of the existence of legendary heroes in old tales. One drawing showed a giant with curved tusks and three arms uprooting a tree. Superstitions abound. Not even greed could draw the most intrepid into such a place. The mist absorbed those earthmen who wandered into them. Even some confused light bearers lost their way in the thick mist. Brief encounters with the people of the mist talk of them as having multiple faces which took turns to dominate one another. Just as one face was speaking, another would come up from under to add or to detract. However, one face would grow in strength as they moved nearer to the thicker mist within the tunnels. After the incident of the Night of the Wolves, the people of the mist gathered at the pillars, where the mist swirled around the pillars and their bodies. Whenever the mist touched them, the face that was close to the mist came to the surface. When the mist swirled away, the faces below appeared. The moon was new. Gora took his stand on the rock, and all could see the mist thickening around him. It seeped into him, and his skin darkened. The pupils of his eyes turned dark, and mist emanated from them. It was a sign for them to take positions. Wherever among them it swirled the thickest, they knew they were marked to move nearer to Gora. The selection continued until there were formed concentric rings of darkness within, moving outwards to the lighter rings. Among the dark rings were women and even children. Lately, even younger children and toddlers were selected. Mothers face difficulties of keeping such children calm. Their little bodies pushed towards the inner circles. Some became aggressive, while some broke free from their mother's arms. They could not be pacified even with their favorite treats. Even Dakira, Gora's wife, retreated when the swirls of mist spiraled around her husband. A pillar became her refuge as she hastily pulled her shawl tighter over her belly. She glanced furtively at Gora. Someone noticed it and nudged her nearer. She pointed to her throat to indicate her nausea. The baby, since its conception, made her soft, gentle, and protective. Her eyes were open to see the underlying nature of the embrace of the mist. Whenever Gora came near, she felt an extreme nausea. What were just dreams of Gora became a reality. In those dreams, Gora and she were being chased by a snake dragon. One day, she saw in that mist Gora's face merging into the face of a snake dragon. Henceforth, she planned an escape route. She did not know which was worse, the charm of a sweet-tongued husband or his abusive manner. And then this snake dragon, that she could never accept, not a snake dragon to raise up her child. It was that charm of his that persuaded her to leave her family in the village. His voice came into her dreams and into her heart. Then it happened, and she had to leave the village. A villager discovered them together, and she was given a choice to leave him or her people. The day she left her people to join Gora was the day she realized she was cut off from the generations of life that shaped her into who she had become. She once asked Luta if she also could see the change in Gora. Bound by a kindred spirit, forged by their communities living close to one another, Luta was a trusted friend. An exception was Luta's community bred pigs for food and profit. It was a taboo easily put aside for the sake of convenience in commerce and intermarriages. It was Luta's marriage to someone from Dakira's village that made them to stay away from their communities. Luta told Dakira of a plant in the hills that could help nausea. It was on the hills they saw the smoke and blurred images of their villages. A deep sense of regret pierced their hearts as they shared childhood memories. Masking that, they laughed and giggled at the images. Intense dreams would follow such trips to the hills. They would dream of their parents and the village feast. That piercing triggered plans from the deep longing to return home. On those trips, plans were made and remade to steal away to a pig farm. Then a swirl of darkness slithered over Dakira's eyes. She closed them tightly and held the image of the hills in her mind. In her heart, she called her parents by name. When Gora started speaking, she opened her eyes again and looked at a familiar spot where Luta would be. Signaling to one another with their eyes, they nodded. She felt Gora's eyes on her. Her heart felt a searing. It was a searing that numbed and killed parts of her identity. The searing continued with each word he spoke. It was too painful. She wanted to block out his voice. She thought of blue skies, of thorn bush herbal pies, of the smell of flat bread roasting on stones, and the voice of her parents. She saw Grandpa with his cup of herbal tea. He waved at her. She recalled what they said, what they did. A song of the generations flooded her soul. Then only the searing subsided. A healing began. As she rested against the pillar, Luta rested her hand on Dakira's shoulder. By then, the others had moved closer to Gora. Even children stayed muted. The shadows of the people cast on the ground and walls of the cavern by flickering wall torches blended into an image of a monstrous, slithering creature of darkness. Lutha and Dakira crouched together and covered themselves with their shawls. Neither moved.